Video games have become a $4 billion a year business, and a great many children, as you parents know, have put them on their Christmas lists. As ABC's Bill Greenwood reports, there is a growing concern on Capitol Hill that parents who buy some of those games may not realize just how much violence they're getting.
Year's 1976. There are outcries from the news, and organizations are coming together with one message. The newly released game Death Race, where you play as a driver and run over gremlins, is corrupting the youth and must be banned. Since the dawn of their creation, controversy in video games have gone hand in hand, whether it's unfounded claims of them causing brain rot, or Pokemon making kids want to pray to Satan.
Pokemon world is a world of the demonic, of the satanic. But while you might not take it quite seriously, I assure you that demons take it quite seriously.
A lot of the time when a controversial game comes out, there's usually some hubbub surrounding it, some news stories are written, and it tends to be the blame for some murder or a school shooting that happens. Some video games are so controversial, however, there may be lawsuits surrounding it, or the game may be pulled from release in certain countries. However, some countries just don't tolerate certain stuff, such as Germany having a no-violence policy, leading to all of these games being banned. Or China, they have a ban on Animal Crossing New Horizons and children. Censorship was rife from the 1980s to the 1990s. Nintendo was the big kid in town, with success with the NES through to the Game Boy and the Super Nintendo. However, with them being in charge, they had a strict policy for the games allowed on their systems. There are a few main rules, but here are the big three. No obscene or explicit content, no references of religion or stereotypes, and no use of foul language and obscenities. Punch-Out is a series created by Nintendo featuring such famous characters as Soda Popinski, who were initially introduced as Vodka Drunkinski, who's a Russian boxer who's always seen holding a mysterious glass bottle, and his such famous quote says, "I can't drive, so I'm gonna walk all over you." Or, we have another character, Bob Charlie from Jamaica, who in-game is known as the Jive King of Kingston, and only ever talks about rhythm in-game. No references of religion or stereotypes. Nintendo weren't the only ones who didn't stick to their own guidelines. The Castlevania series famously features a vampire hunter trying to kill Dracula using weapons such as crucifixes and holy water. However, neither of these games caused much of an uproar, and by the end of the Super Nintendo era, Nintendo abandoned their guidelines. However, this wasn't from Nintendo's own hand. In the late 80s to the early 90s, a video game regulations board was created. In Europe, the Video Standards Council was introduced in 1989 following concerns from the government about the video game industry as it entered into the mainstream, initially working on behalf of ELSPA, until in 2003 they introduced the PEGI system, which is still being used to this very day. However, ever since this ratings board, which was created to stop controversies and news stories, there's been a lot more video game controversy stories, including one in particular, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, or more specifically, the Hot Coffee mod. GTA San Andreas is the fifth entry in the Grand Theft Auto series, and was released in 2004 for the PlayStation 2, later in 2005 for Xbox and PC. In June 2005, a mod was released online, dubbed the Hot Coffee mod. Installing the mod file meant that instead of during the normal game, where when a player would invite his girlfriend in for some coffee, the camera would stay outside and moaning sounds would be heard. But with the mod activated, instead you'd enter the house and engage in a fully clothed sexual intercourse minigame. However, it was later found out that the contents of the minigame were already on the disc, and all the mod did was make it accessible from the code. The result of this led to many news stories and outcry from the general public that the game must be banned as it's polluting the minds of our youth. In Europe, the highest game rating available was 18, which GTA San Andreas already was, so nothing ended up happening. In America, however, there was a much larger outcry, with politicians such as Hillary Clinton calling for the game to be banned. This resulted in a mass amount of lawsuits claimed against Rockstar, and the Clinton Foundation ended up introducing the FIPA, which would protect children from inappropriate content by enforcing stricter regulations from the US rating boards, the ESRB, which the ESRB alone was introduced from controversies inciting Mortal Kombat to be banned for its intense violence. However, after all of this, it still wasn't enough for some people, and with the eyes still on Rockstar Games, a group known as the Pieceaholics decided to go after their next game, Bully. The Pieceaholics went to Rockstar's headquarters and gave them a list of demands, which are as follows. Number 1, not to release Bully under any circumstances. Number 2, volunteer to only sell its games in adult video stores. Number 3, let all parents return Grand Theft Auto for a full refund and create a national awareness campaign to educate parents on the content of their games. Number 4, create a fund for victims of carjackings. Number 5, create a national apology for misleading and lying to children, parents and legislators. And finally, to give a written response to the group within 5 days of receipt of the demands. Rockstar obviously did absolutely nothing. However, the name for the game Bully did have to be changed in the UK. The contents of the game are still the same. However, it was renamed to Canis Canem Edit. At the end of all the lawsuits in 2007, Take-Two Interactive, the holder company for Rockstar, agreed to pay financial compensation to anyone who was offended or upset by the contents of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. However, by mid-2008, only 2,700 of the 21.5 million people who bought the game ended up requesting for any money. Nowadays, people look back at the Hot Coffee mod incident and wonder why there was such a controversy. In the newest Grand Theft Auto game, GTA 5, there is fully explicit sex scenes in the game. Let alone the fact that GTA San Andreas was already a game for adults, and the content of the Hot Coffee mod was locked behind a mod anyway. Some video games are only made to spark outrage and to mock the video games rating board. A famous example being the video game Hatred. It was released in 2015, where you play as a guy who decides that he's sick of the world and so decides to go out and murder the entire population. So, you as the player go out and try to kill as many people as possible. With each kill raising your health, incentivizing people to kill as many people as possible. The game had caused controversy even before its release. Within the first day of it being released on Steam, it shot up to the top of the charts to be swiftly removed, until later being brought back again. Reviews of the game said about how the gameplay itself isn't very fun, with poor controls and overall unintuitive gameplay. News organizations quickly picked up on stories about the game, and started posting about how the game should be pulled from Steam, which it temporarily was until the controversy died down. Which leads to the real point. Was anyone genuinely upset from the Hot Coffee mod, and isn't publishing stories about controversial video games giving them exactly what they want? Well, for question 1, we already know. Barely any people ended up taking any money from the lawsuit, so about 2,700 people. And to answer question number 2, I'm going to take a few words from reviewer Ben Croshaw, who released a review on Hatred at the time of its release. When a game itself is created to be controversial, it ends up with two groups of people. One side of people who want the game to be banned, and anyone who plays it is a criminal. And another group who buys the game for the sole reason in spite of this group, and then goes on to call them snowflakes and other such annoying words. Meanwhile, the developer sits and gets more money having free publication from this side and free monetary support from this side, which ends up in nothing happening and the world goes on as usual. Is banning video games really that helpful? We live in a world where everything is digital. You could access any video game off the internet that you want, whether it's banned or not. Which honestly is kind of beautiful. It means that the people of China can play Animal Crossing New Horizons, and the people of Iran can go and play Clash Royale. And it also means that yes, us here in the UK can play Sex Vixens from Space.